Hi everyone, it's good to see you here. Welcome to the session today. I'll just wait 30 seconds for everyone else to jump on. If you can keep yourselves on mute for the time being, that would be great. That would be great. Hey Hemel, good to see you've made it early in the morning. Shehan, good to see you. Ravi, can see you're in the train, I think, so thanks for making it. Imesh, thanks for being here as well. Um, Everyone, Amosh, Zor, Sabi, good to have all you guys here. Dekan, hopefully I'm pronouncing all the names correctly. All right. So just admit everyone here. Okay, let's get into it. While we just wait for everyone else. So I'll start with the disclaimer as per usual. So by continuing on this call, you agree that any information provided by me on this call or any call is provided as general information and for general information purposes only. I've not taken your personal and financial circumstances into account when providing information. The information is not intended to imply any recommendation about any particular financial product or class of financial products and should not be reasonably be regarded as being intended to have such an influence. The information provided must be verified by you prior to acting or relying on the information by an independent professional advisor, including a legal, financial, or taxation advisor. And finally, the information may not be suitable or applicable to your individual circumstances. All right, I'll admit everyone else on. All right, guys. Well, thank you for coming. Apologies, we didn't have a session last week. I had like a medical appointment, and thank you for all those who reached out to me for that as well. I appreciate your good wishes. And like I always say, congratulations to everyone who's bought properties over the last week or two. I think, yeah, there's been like a barrage. I don't know what it is, but it's kind of going into spring, etc. Maybe listings are higher. I'm not sure, but there's so many of you who have been emailing me. So congratulations to all of you, and always love to hear about those deals. The purpose of these sessions is to support and guide you so you can get the best results from the course. So good job on attending, or if you're watching the recording. Of course, all my are welcome to attend, and if you're new, welcome. Welcome to the community. And of course, if you're returning, it's always good to see you here as well. You're most welcome to leave your cameras on, but of course, you don't have to. I know people are commuting and things like that as well. These sessions happen every Tuesday. Excuse me, at 8 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time or Brisbane time. And if you're new, like I always do, I'll just share my screen real quick and take you through two things. The first thing will be the community forum. So this is the community forum. When you log on to the course, you'll see um, the course and also the community forum. Don't confuse it with the Facebook group. This is the one for clients, and it's incredibly active. Like everyone's super active on here, which is, I think, part of the value in it. You can see just on week 2 alone, there's more than 3,000 questions and answers. So it's just fantastic. Thank you for helping each other as well. Every single question here gets answered by Samir and me if it's addressed to us, and of course, everyone answers as well where they can. Everything gets answered within 24 to 48 hours. So rest assured, if you're stuck, don't think that it's some sort of, customer support where it goes into, some abyss and you never hear back from anyone. It always gets answered with between 24 and 48 hours, and you can ask follow-ups as well. You can also use the search the community function here to put in keywords like suburbs, etc., and you'll be able to see what others have been already discussing about those topics. And there's, of course, the FAQ reference sheet as part of each week's download section in the course, which also covers, obviously, the most common questions. And the next thing I want to show you real quick is the mentorship recordings. These are where all of these sessions like today are archived. So if I go down to the bottom of this, you can see the previous session we had was on the 10th, because obviously I was unwell last week, where Prashant took us through how he bought 4 properties real quick in a year, and according to him, like pretty easily. So if anyone's having any difficulty watch this session and then reach out to Prashant by tagging him in our community forum that I just mentioned before. Before that, we had Reese take us through how he bought 4 properties since 2022. And I think the key thing with him was he bought like a dual occupancy. And so with that, he was able to maintain a pretty neutrally geared or positively geared portfolio so he can continue buying more from a household budgeting perspective. Before that, we had our quarterly update on the most interesting suburbs across Australia under 500K and over 500K. And also with all those additional suburbs that I mentioned, I provided the updated property manager references and the building and pest inspector references. So if you're new to the course, let's say you've only just joined in the last 2 weeks, or perhaps you've been here for many years, but you're just coming back now because you're finally ready to buy the next property. Maybe it's a good idea to start with these 2 mentoring calls to make sure that you're pointing in the right direction, or that at least confirm that your analysis is ratified by by my comments in these mentoring calls, etc., etc. I won't go on and on, but you can see there's hundreds of different members, hundreds of topics, etc., that are discussed here. So please do make the most of that resource, and please do ask lots of questions in the community forum. All right. So the process by which we'll work today, as we do every time, is we'll start off with a member deal. You can ask any questions at any time in the chat. So you can open up the chat box in Zoom and type in your questions. If you're addressing it to me, just start with my name and put in your question. Or if you're addressing it to Imesh, who's our guest today, who I'll introduce properly in a second, then as he presents, and if you have questions about his portfolio, his deals, etc., you can just put his name in the chat and ask your questions, and then I know who it's addressed to and I can read it out for him. Of course, you can ask any questions about any week of the course as long as you've done that week, and if you can limit it to perhaps 1 or 2 questions per person to give everyone a chance. And if you're asking about a particular suburb, try to be specific about which factor you're not sure about, because obviously we can't cover entire suburbs. And lastly, please don't be shy. I always say this, but I really do mean it. I'm genuinely here to help you. So please ask, there's no such thing as a silly question. All right, cool. Well, without further ado, I'll just introduce Imesh. So um, Imesh has been a client for about a year. I won't spoil his thunder because he's going to give you a bit of background, and he's bought a couple of properties, really good properties. He's going to take us through sort of his mindset shift because he had his PPOI, he had equity, he was going to buy something more sort of brand new or on the newer side, and through the course, of course, he changed tact. But I just want to say, like so many clients who present on these sessions. They really put a lot of effort, not only into buying properties for themselves, but also kind of compiling their list of lessons learned and what they perhaps could have improved on, etc., etc., for the betterment and benefit of you guys who are on these sessions. So he's put together a really fantastic presentation that I didn't ask him to, by the way, but he did it off his own accord. And so for that, I'm very grateful. And on behalf of everyone, Imesh, thank you so much for making time. And yeah, congratulations for everything you've achieved so far.
Thank you, Vijay. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for inviting me to do this session. PK, if it is not a problem, I'd like to share my screen.
Okay, I just enabled it now, so perhaps it should.
Okay, great. Yeah, okay, great. Thank you. Right, okay. Right. Hope everyone can see my screen.
Can see it, yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, the disclaimer. Yeah, this is just a summary on how we started on our property investment journey. So we just started in June 2024, and this is not a success story by any means. So I'm just sharing my experience, which I think will be helpful for new property investors. So who are very experienced might find this boring. So please bear with me for that. So this might not be useful to you guys. So just to give some background about me. So I'm coming from a software engineering domain. So we moved to Sydney in 2018 and then built our first home in Sydney and completed that in 2013 and got some good equity by early 2024. And we had a lot of friends purchasing investment properties, but not as a retirement strategy, but just one or two properties. So we also wanted to do the same. So at that time, we initially thought we may want to buy in NSW, maybe in Hunter Valley. And later, by going through online materials, specifically videos that PK has shared, so at that time we thought that might be better to go and try something in Perth. And we were also like biased towards purchasing newer properties. So initially, this is what we did. Like this is our first attempt to purchase a property. So I personally scan like suburbs in Perth closer to CBD, and since we were like very recently built a new house, we were biased towards this. So then we found this property, like it is a brand new property, and then we talked to the sales agent, had like built a good relationship, and didn't know anything about like CMA or like how to understand the value of the property. So I just went through like sales, properties on sale in that region and gave an offer for 685. And then then the sales agent was really nice. And then I didn't know how to tackle the negotiation. I'm not very good at negotiating. So later he mentioned, so the negotiation was done via email. And then he mentioned that it is not sufficient. So we went for 710 and the offer was accepted. So we were so happy. And this was the first property we gave an offer. And so then they sent a contract. I didn't know what the contract is actually. So we had a solicitor and a broker and also a pre-approval at that stage. So then we sent the contract to the solicitor just to review. We got the contract around like 6 or 7 p.m. and then we sent it in the evening, but we didn't get a feedback until next day. So by next day, actually, someone else has made a higher offer, so we lost it. So at that time, I didn't know anything about property like purchasing. So this was our first experience. Then at that time, I was discussing this with one of our close friends, and then we decided like he actually flew to Perth to check properties. By that time, like I asked him, okay, what exactly can you do by going there? So since I went through a lot of videos, I knew it might not be very useful to go there and check because these metrics might not be like we might not be able to get those details by going there.
Mhm.
So after that, so I decided to do the course, and he also did the course, and then within like 2 weeks time, I was able to complete the course, and I was so amazed with the content covered in the course because at that time, like we didn't know anything, any of those details. So I was so fascinated by PK's journey, as everyone like does. So then,
Can I just ask, sorry to interrupt,
yeah,
Imesh, just a
yeah,
question came up. You said the other person had also done the course, but he flew to Perth, like
yes.
I suppose to inspect properties or what have you. I'm just curious, just for the learning of everyone in the group, why did he fly there? Like, did he get any value from being there in person, or do you know any of these details?
Yeah, so at that time we we knew high level details that which you have posted on YouTube and Facebook, but we did not like in-depth details. But I knew going there might not be helpful, but he and his wife went there just to attend few inspections and also talk to a few friends around CBD and understand different parts of Perth, like like for an example, like he understood that closer to the river and north side of Perth is better than the southern part of the Perth. and social economic factors of some of the southern part of suburbs and LGAs likewise. So, but it helped him to get us a high level understanding of those suburbs, but it didn't help him to get like make a proper decision, if I were to put
Got
it
it.
in a better way. Yeah.
Got it.
So one other thing I noticed at that time was I noticed like people are purchasing against trust, and I analyzed it in detail. Some of the sessions done by weekly calls were like really helpful to understand this. So then I checked that with my broker, and uh, so I personally pay a lot of tax. So I also, initially I wanted to like purchase against personal name and then try to save tax, but then by analyzing the long-term plan, and also maybe at some point if we were to upgrade our personal residence to a different, like to a different location, or a better house. So I thought like it might be difficult to do that if I purchase first few properties against our personal names. Therefore, like I carefully analyzed that and then took a decision. Okay, we are going to purchase against trust from the beginning. So so when I did my first suburb analysis, like I got the first most suburbs came in Townsville. So then I checked those suburbs, and like those houses are like built on those poles. Like I was not very confident in purchasing that type of a property in flood areas. So then after having discussions with my wife, my friends, and then we decided to buy something closer to Perth CBD. So these are some of the suburbs that I shortlisted after like analyzing hundreds of suburbs and uh, bringing it down to maybe top 50, top 30. So then excluded some of the suburbs in other states and only took suburbs in WA. And this was the first offer after the course. So again, coming back from like the bias towards buying a newer property. So we thought this is a really good one because the weekly rent was around 700, maybe more than that. And our CMA was around also 700. The only issue I saw in this was the shape of the land. I have also put a picture here. And I asked about this from PK. PK also gave the same feedback, but we were still interested in this, and we gave an offer, and that was accepted. Like, and then in the accepted offer, I noticed that the sales agent has written, as we gave an offer for like 680, and then 690, and then 700. I was like, bit, I was not sure why he has done it like that. When I cross-checked, I understood our offer was a bit too high. So he has written it like that way, like 680, 690, and then 700, just to show the owner that he has negotiated with me. And then the price has come up. So that's one of my learnings. So
And so
so then
why do you sorry, I'm just going
yeah.
to interrupt from time to time. So I think we can go a bit deeper. So you think you like offered over like the fair market value or the like the true comparable amount? Could you share like, because we all had the same CMA tool, was it like you didn't do the tool, or you did do the tool, but you like where did you go wrong in hindsight, or did you not go wrong and there's actually a twist to this tale?
Right, yeah. I used the tool PK. I think what may have gone wrong is the shape of the land. So I did not reduce some value for that factor,
Right.
but I still analyze, like if you can see here in this picture. So I checked the land area without the road and then calculated my CMA based for that land area by excluding, not completely excluding, but I gave a lower rate per square value for this particular area for the road.
Hmm.
So then it was there, like this property has been there for some time, maybe around 2 months in the market. So maybe my valuation was a bit too high in that aspect. And one other challenge was like, as all of us know, like there's a data lag. So in hot markets, it's very challenging to like get to the proper CMA. I mean, it was very challenging for me, at least at that stage. So those are the reasons I noticed.
Right. So this is like a battle X block where, am I right? I mean, I know you emailed me, but just to
Yeah,
confirm, the entrance or the main driveway is that sliver of land, and then and the north side, according to a bird's eye view, that's not another entrance to the house, right?
yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, I mean, Battle Axe, just for everyone's benefit as well. Battle Axe, was what's called a Battle Axe block, where it was previously one big titled, one title, and then there's been some sort of subdivision perhaps, and then they've carved out the side driveway. So, um, I mean, there's occasions where these types of properties make sense to buy, let's say, you're getting it really cheap, really genuinely under your CMA by 40, 50,000 plus, 10% plus, or something like that. But generally speaking, we want to avoid buying these types of properties because, as you might have realized later on, Imesh, when you talk to a property manager or definitely other sales agents, the future rentability, or more so than rentability, the future saleability is a little bit compromised because some people don't want to have this little house tucked out at the back with no street appeals. So is that a fair statement, Amish?
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So one of the reasons why I wanted to buy this was like around this area, there were many properties in the same spec built in the same year for higher price. So that's why I initially thought it might be a good deal, but later I realized, okay, I should have excluded it much earlier. Right. So moving on to the second offer. So this is in Caversham. So Caversham, for who is not aware, like is a very like a newly developed suburb where still there are some properties built around 2000 2010. So therefore, because of the recent development, property prices of established properties have gone quite high. So I couldn't realize it at the initial stage, and I was a bit late to give offers. So when I talked to the sales agent, he was really nice. He initially told me like expected price is 760. I thought that's way too high. So then I started around 720. Then I understood with his feedback it's not like sufficient because I was referring to CoreLogic valuation and also did my CMA. Still, I couldn't like realize that my CMA was also very low. So then I increased that to 750 and still I couldn't get it. By that time, someone else has like given offer for 760, as I understood, but with some conditions. So if I had given us for 760 at very early stage, I could have get it. Uh, One of the reasons why I didn't want to do that was this house was a bit small. So, and it was not spacious. Bedrooms are also a bit small. So, and it was located next to a roundabout. So due to those reasons, I was not very keen on initial increase in the offer. I just wanted to see whether I could get it for a lower price. And
Right.
in this picture, yeah, you could see like I have marked public housing. So I found those details from CoreLogic DP data. So that was helpful to understand like whether it is closer to a public housing or like whether there are other uh, I mean areas where a lot of public houses. And one other point I found about that point, when I talked to the sales agent, like he mentioned that, oh yeah, there are public houses in this area, but the government is going to move them to some other areas because the property prices in this area is going very high. So the government is trying to purchase maybe two properties in some other area by selling one property in this area. So therefore, he's expecting these public houses to be like gone in like maybe in 4 to 5 years time.
Right, right. It's really useful that you're actually sharing the offers, not just the properties that you ended up buying. I think this is like a really good learning for everyone. Can I just ask one question? Um, I noticed that the offers that you're putting on are properties that are like, above 700K. Is there any reason, I mean, I'm not saying it's bad or good, but just to understand your strategy and mindset of why you're kind of targeting these price point properties as opposed to perhaps, under 500K or under 600K. What was the kind of thinking around it?
Oh yeah, I mean that's very specific to me, PK. So I, as a person, has always tried to buy like really good things. I mean, even building a house, like we wanted to upgrade all the inclusions, things like that. So it's just my preference, and
Right.
since we were purchasing against the trust, and we also had a good borrowing capacity, so therefore, initially I wanted to buy something around 500, to be honest. But according to my suburb analysis and the properties we found, since they're like in the flooding areas, and due to those like different types of houses on poles, so I was not comfortable in buying anything around that range. So then I decided to buy in Perth. So then um, that's how I narrowed down my like suburb selection and property selection. So that's why it came to this price range. But if you ask me today, yeah, I truly believe that it's better to go like buy something around 500 or below that if possible, without going for a high like for to the 700 range.
Got
Yeah.
it. Got it. So it was a personal preference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Then while going through that property, I also found this. So I was like looking at these two at the same time. So this is in Eden Hill. So I found that like I talked to several like a few sales agents, like very senior sales agents in Perth, and then figured out that so Eden Hill is a very established suburb, and there are very less properties on sale. So then I didn't realize it at that time actually. So, and when I even talked to sales agent, like I was not convinced by what they said. Like when I talked about this property, was very senior sales agent. Like he told me like this will surely go for around 750.
Hmm.
Oh, but I was not convinced. So I went with my CMA and CoreLogic valuation, and then start with 710 and increase so let me move this away a bit. Yeah, so increase my offer till around 730, but still I couldn't get it. What actually happened was the market was very hot for this property. That's because like only one or two properties were on sale, and this was really good. And after like few months, I couldn't find a property on sale in this spec, in this quality, in this suburb. And on the other end of this suburb, I could see properties selling for around 800 and 900. So then one challenge I had in this property was the sales agent was not responsive. So she was just asking for my offer and then went silent. So she didn't answer any calls. She didn't she responded to my emails a bit, but I couldn't get like understanding of how the other offers are, like how other offers they have received, and whether I'm at a good my offer was competitive enough or
And
not.
was this the main sales agent, or did you try like the associate agents as well from the same agency?
Yeah, I actually followed that strategy and reached out to the associate sales agent. The main sales agent didn't even answer the call.
Right,
I couldn't even speak to her.
right,
So it was the associate, but she was not responsive. What
right.
I realized was maybe she understood that my offer is a bit low, and maybe they had some good offers, and that might be the reason. or I also felt like they have someone in preference, maybe a buyer's agent or someone they knew they wanted to give this property to. Or I didn't know. I mean, I was not very sure. So we were
Right.
very keen on buying this. So this was located at a very residential area. And according to the council, there is a big hospital planned to be built uh, next door. I mean, not next door, but next to the main road. This is on a by road, but there's a main road going next to this, and then opposite that, there's a big hospital to be planned to be built.
And
So
was
yeah,
I'm just trying to understand, like trying to troubleshoot where we could have perhaps improved. Was the CMA, I know you said you kind of used the core logic estimate as well. But coming back to like the tool in the course, did you index that up? For example, if you use one of the comparable properties that was sold 3 months ago and that, house prices have gone up 50,000 in the last 3 months, and you know that they're going to rise going
yeah.
forward. Was the 725 already indexed for that?
Yeah, so at initial stages, I didn't realize it, but at this stage, like when we were making the second and third offers, like I used that strategy, PK.
Yeah.
So I even checked the like land value for per square meter value, the asset to land ratio and so forth. So I did that, but
hmm
since I couldn't talk to the sales agent, like it was a bit difficult because this was a one-way communication. Like I was just sending offers and no feedback.
And was that through email that you were sending offers, or
Yeah, through email.
because I know members have previously mentioned that sometimes when you can't, get someone on the phone, you can like text them,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
that, that way, if they receive a few texts from you over, 1 or 2 days, then chances are, right, that they'll at least respond with something. Did you already try that as well, or
Yeah, yeah,
yeah?
I tried that. Yeah, actually, she was like, she responded through text, but those were not informative enough for me to understand whether my offer was good or not.
Hmm.
So maybe because the market was hot, so like, if I were to situate, I may had to give the best offer at my first or second attempt.
Right, right. Yeah, maybe that's a good learning, especially because this was in June, just a few months ago. This is
Yeah.
hot as you can get in Perth. Uh, I'm sure the agent would have received 10 to 20 different offers, and just to make things efficient for them, they're probably just going to go back to the ones that were in the top five, right? And
Yeah.
there's probably some emotional buyers in there overpaying, and some probably investors. So maybe would you say that's a good learning to, if it's a super, super hot market, go in with, almost your best foot forward?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Cool.
that's the main learning of this. So even I gave an offer for 765. That was an emotional offer, by the way. And this property was sold for around 730. So I still couldn't get it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So if your offer was 710 initially, right?
yes.
Um, and what did you say it was sold for 730?
Yeah, so I checked CoreLogic after I think a month or so. I noticed that this was sold for around 730.
But did you offer, like in that slide, it says you offered them 721, 733,
Yeah.
765. You actually put these offers forward?
Yes, I sent them officially, I mean through an email, but at
Uh-huh.
that time they have considered to give it to someone else.
Right. Maybe that person already locked it in, and
Yes.
then they were receiving your text messages, but maybe it was like, I'm just trying to troubleshoot this so everyone can understand and learn from it. Maybe did you have conditions on your contract, like for example, subject to finance? I'm thinking perhaps the successful buyer didn't have subject to finance.
Oh, yeah, that's a possibility, PK. Yeah, I did had subject to finance. So,
Sure, sure. Maybe that was they said, I want it within a day and it's cash offer, in which case, it's pretty hard to turn that down.
yeah,
I'm just trying
that's
to understand so that, we can all improve from this.
yeah, that's very true.
Yeah,
So
cool.
in summary, like I did a lot of, I mean, I did a detailed analysis for this specific property. Everything was green, like the pocket, all the details. Like, so then I was so mentally affected by after losing this.
Hmm.
So then, so moving on to the next one. Then I found this one. Like this is in Thornley, sorry, Gosnells. So initially I did not check Gosnells, but later I figured out. So there are a lot of like developments happening in Gosnells, and this particular property like is on a 809 square meter block, and then the house has been renovated really nicely. And the sales agent who advertised this, like he's like one of the biggest sales agents in this area, and almost all the properties he sell are in really good condition. And then I talked to the sales agent on the first, like within the first few hours, this was advertised, and they wanted to give an offer, but I understood. Oh, okay, so their plan is not to sell it immediately, but it was advertised on a Thursday, as I can recall. They wanted to go for an inspection on Monday or Tuesday, and then evaluate offers. So I understood their strategy. So I was okay. I mean, I wanted to align with their plan. And at that time, I initially gave an offer for 655. So they were happy where I started. And I knew this is going to go for around 700 with the market trend. And so I sent someone, like I got a property manager to inspect this. And the property was in like as similar to the pictures, like it was in great condition. So so regarding the inspection, on it was scheduled around 5 p.m. I think 5:30 p.m. and it was raining on that day. Still, there were like around 20 to 30, maybe I cannot recall. Like he sent me a video. There were so many people who have come to check this property, even in that like weather condition.
Hmm.
So I knew like there would be a lot of offers for this property. Then the second offer I gave for 685. I knew it's not going to be enough. So then I increased it to 710, thinking that that was my limit. I didn't want to go
Hmm.
beyond that range. And it was sold for 720. So I lost it by 10K.
Right, right. What's interesting to me is that, like, yes, you lost it by 10K, but it was sold for 70K over your CMA, your indexed CMA. I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but I'd be super curious to understand whether it was like a emotional owner
Yeah.
occupier that bought this home. Like, we could easily see if it was listed for rent or not. Because that, I mean, yeah, I can see your learnings here. You said you were emotionally attached and you're emotionally affected after losing the final offer. Um, I think, emotional owner occupiers that don't have an understanding of valuing properties, they don't have a CMA tool, they do less than investors, even uneducated investors, right? And they just overpay for it. And there's really no way we can compete with that because that's literally how capital growth happens when people overpay for properties. That becomes a new valuation. Um, so my suspicion, correct me if I'm wrong, is that this was probably an owner occupier that bought it and yeah, this
Yeah.
was the second one that you were kind of emotionally affected by. What was your like what was your state? Like were you kind of logical about it or were you like in the dumps? Like this is not working. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, so since this is the first investment property we were like trying to buy, so we badly wanted to buy something. So I truly like acknowledge I was emotionally attached rather than like evaluating it from an investment perspective. So that's coming from my background. So so therefore all of these were like learnings for me.
Right.
So yeah, still I don't consider myself as a like a good investor or at least like a good at least I have a good start for my investment journey, but still I was able to like secure two good properties. So yeah, so basically yeah, that's why I put it in that way in the disclaimer. Like this might not be a good session for like experienced investors. Just I'm just sharing my experience.
No, I think then people will probably agree that this is a really good session because we get to learn about both sides of the investing coin, the quote unquote failures, and also the successes, but the failures were just a stepping stone to what you then did next, which was actually succeed, right?
Yeah. Thanks, Peter. Yeah. Let's move into the next one. So this is the first one we purchased. So so now this is in Daliap, closer to Banbury. So I know some of us in the group has purchased properties in Daliap. So so again, this is like a property built in 2009, so it's in really good condition, and it was already tenanted. And I talked to the surgeon and asked whether I could get a. That was one strategy I did. Like actually, so when I was not able to send a property manager to inspect the property, I talked to the sales surgeon and asked like, okay, can you send me a video recording, a video walkthrough of the property? So she quickly sent me one, and I was very happy with the current condition. And this was advertised on online auction platform. So this is the first time I came across that. Previously, I gave like manual offers. So here I had to post my offer through that platform. And then the one mistake I did was at that time, no offers were like given for this property. So this was a cooler suburb. And again, we were emotionally attached. And so we gave an offer for like 705. And with my analysis, I saw um, the positive factors of this suburb. Like it's really like well established, a lot of nice surroundings, and then hospitals uh, and amenities required for better living. Like so, then when I checked my CMA, I saw a rapid growth in property prices during last few months. So even when I gave the first offer, the CoreLogic valuation of this property was around 630. I knew that is a bit low. And after a few weeks' time, it increased to around 650. And today it's around 680. So within a couple of months, I could see the valuations of these properties going up. So that's why we wanted to go for this. And yeah, so that was my experience with the first one. So this is now settled, and we do have a tenant here. So tenant
Right,
is up.
right. I think there was a question here from someone who's asking, congrats on your buy. They're saying, curious why you went for a sub 5% yield. Is it just your specific strategy?
Yeah, so yeah, so after, I mean, today I understand like it would be better if I could have purchased self-sufficient properties initially. So that's something I noted. But I was okay to go with around 5% or maybe a bit below that rental yield.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I think you mentioned it at the beginning or towards the beginning as well that you were quite keen on, I suppose, like a higher quality property, and that would mean around 700K with all the kind of fixtures and fittings and bells and whistles. So I think that also answers the question. It was just your personal preference. I mentioned you're paying a lot of tax, so presumably, the household budgeting and stuff can accommodate this kind of purchase. Um, and naturally, when you're buying a property around 700K, 800K, the yield is going to be less versus 400, 500K. So it looks like you've kind of at least made the decision with education, quite intentionally, somewhat.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Yes. And so this was like a purchase in July. And then in August, I wanted to purchase another one closer to CBD. So then I found this in Thornley. And this is located in front of a nice park. So then I gave a call to the sales agent. Like she again sent me a video walkthrough. I didn't send anyone to inspect the property, and I was happy with the condition, and I was ready to take some level of risk to do some renovation. So she told me that there's a water leak in the bathroom, and that needs to be fixed. And there are like minor issues with changing roof tiles, and so may need to do some internal paint work, and might need to change carpets, so things like that. So I was ready to take that risk, and considering the land size, the location, and other factors. So this property settled a few days back, and now they have advertised. I mean, so I had a really good property manager in Perth. So she was like, she helped me quite a lot in inspecting a few other properties, and she was really nice as a person. So therefore, I gave this property to her, and he's the owner. She's one of the owners of that company, and then I sent her uh, the inspection report, the building inspection report, and she went through it in detail and suggested, okay, we could do these renovations, but at the same time, we could try to advertise it now. So then we could try to secure a tenant, and then we could quickly do those minor renovations and try to rent it out. So I was happy with her suggestion. And I also went through the community and found some recommendations for doing those renovation work. So currently I'm going through that process.
Right, right. I also noticed that on this property and the previous one that you just put in one offer and it was accepted. And I
Yeah.
kind of got a sense on the previous slide at least that, you thought maybe you could have, because of the auction type setting, you could have got it for cheaper. But I
Yep.
think just my comment to everyone is, as long as it's at your CMA or at or around your CMA, don't have buyer's remorse. In fact, who knows? Maybe that's the reason you got it, and you're sort of maybe thinking, oh, I should have given 625. I got my first offer accepted. Maybe it was too high. But like your previous experience showed, if you'd maybe started at 620, 625, or 615, maybe you would have missed out on the property entirely because someone just gave a higher offer at the start. So in these hot markets, like we just said before, I think it's a great learning just to put your best foot forward.
Yeah, exactly, BK. Because if you can recall, like other few offers that I gave earlier, like I
Yeah,
started
do you mind if I can come through? Yeah, thank you.
I
Sorry, I'll
started
just
low, but I couldn't like get an offer accepted. So that's why I went through this strategy. So I didn't go very high, but I went with a moderate offer.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right.
So overall learning. So yeah, so I understood that building relationships with all parties involved in this process is key, especially with the mortgage broker. So we had a lot of challenges with our mortgage broker because we went with trust. So initially, like he was very reluctant to proceed with trust because he used the word cheating. He told me like, oh, we are going to cheat by using a trust to purchase a property. I was like, I'm sorry, I told him like I don't agree with using that term. So I understood that with the knowledge that he has, he's thinking that it's cheating. So, but
Was
still,
he one of the recommended mortgage brokers or someone else?
no, PK. At that time, like before doing the course, like we worked with him. He's very professional, no dramas, like to the point, very helpful to refinance our residential property loan. So therefore, with that relationship, we went with him.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah, and then we also had challenges with working with the solicitor. So she's also really good, but when working there was one incident like we had to sign loan documents, and that required a legal certificate, legal advice certificate. I didn't know about it. I didn't hear about that requirement even in the course. I mean, even in the community or on YouTube. So I was a bit surprised about that requirement. And then because what happened is mortgage broker sent us documents to be signed, and it says, oh, you need a signature from the solicitor. But he didn't mention that it requires a legal advice certificate. So that was very new to me. So then that that is like a separate service. So our solicitor even did mention about it at the beginning. So then I realized, okay, she also didn't know about this process in detail. So they were also learning while going through this process. So those were the challenges I faced.
Right.
So yeah, so it
Okay.
like yeah.
There's some questions. I'll just conscious of time.
Yeah.
Imesh, I'll read out some questions that are directed at you.
Yeah, for sure.
So just scrolling down. Okay, here's one from Dekan. He's asking, "Hi Imesh, could you please share a bit more around specifics on how you found public housing areas? I think you said you use CoreLogic. Did you also like, how was that? And then did you like verify that based on how I teach in the course in terms of calling a property manager or a couple of property managers and confirming?
Yeah, I think the best is to talk to the property manager, but like officially we can find it through CoreLogic DP data, RP data, sorry.
Got it. Got
So
it.
it's if you search for the owner, like in RP data, you can find properties listed under a name. So yeah, so for those public housing, there's a specific name called state housing or something like that. So then you can find all the properties listed under that name.
Okay. I think Gautam, your question to Imesh has already been answered. Another one from Dekan, he's asking, can you please share more on how did you understand about the plan of a hospital? I think on one of the ones you mentioned there was like a new hospital coming down the road.
Yeah, it's
I think he's
on
asked, how did you
council.
find out?
Yeah, it's on council planning. I cannot remember the exact page, but if you go to the council page and it has like development plans.
Right. Ben is asking, I think this was answered. Do you have a PM who visited those properties on your behalf when putting an offer? I think you mentioned this already, Amish, that you had a video sent by the sales agent. And Ben, I also there's like a table, like a schematic in the FAQ reference sheet. I think it's for the week 4 or week 5. I can't remember which one. But we give like and there was a practical session done on this last December as well, if you look in the recordings, on what to do in different heated market, cool to hot market. So if it's an absolutely cool market, let me just mute everyone. If it's a really cool market, then you can absolutely get a property manager to inspect, etc. And then there's a spectrum. If it's a super hot market, then subject to your risk appetite, you can just get a video and then either just review the video yourself or ideally send it to your independent property manager for their consultation. Did you do that, Imesh? When you got that video from the sales agent, did you send it to your property manager to have a look through, or did you just skip that step and were comfortable just by inspecting it yourself?
I did both, PK. So in for the second property we purchased, I sent it to the property manager who I was planning to give it to. So she went through it and I got feedback for that.
Got it. Got it. Thanks for sharing. Good question there, Ben. I think those questions are already answered. Um, Yeah, so I think I'm pronouncing their name correctly. Zor is asking, thanks for sharing your experiences. I noticed that you intended to utilize the negative gearing before, buying under your own name, but instead you purchased investment properties within trusts. What's the specific reason you decided to pivot like that?
Yeah, so I went through a lot of experiences shared by like PK's sessions on trust and noted that most people say, okay, so at some point they had to restructure properties purchased at initial stages and move them to trust to purchase further. So what I understood, and from my long-term plan, and my plan for purchasing another residential property, I realized that it'd be better for me to purchase properties against trust, even though I do not get tax benefits against my personal name for those. So that's a risk I took, and with like by evaluating those details, points in detail.
Got it. Got it. And last question for you, Imish. Nay is asking, did you always intend to buy two in WA, or did you initially want to buy one in WA, one somewhere else, and ended up buying both in WA?
Yeah, so we wanted to buy in multiple states, but initially I wanted to buy 2 in Perth, and then maybe the next one in I need to do another suburb analysis and then decide on that. But at that time, I was thinking to buy in around Brisbane.
Got it. Got it. All right. Well, I think I'll spend the next 10 minutes answering the questions that were directed at me, Imesh, but I just want to say that's really good work. Sometimes I get this feeling from you. I don't know if I'm putting words in your mouth, but I sometimes we can be really hard on ourselves and think, in hindsight, I should have done this, I should have done that, or maybe I didn't buy the best properties, etc. But I'm just objectively looking at the 2 deals that you purchased, and at that price point in Perth, I mean, I don't know if you can buy better properties. So, of course, that was an intentional decision to buy at that price point with that yield. But that notwithstanding, I think that you've made absolutely great decisions. That, like you said, they're already rising in value. I think everyone knows my view on Perth is that really it's only left now, Perth Metropolitan, for those with your strategy, or even now is more like 800K or 7 to 900K. But I think you got in at the right time in your specific strategy, and they'll continue to do well. And Perth still has a lot of value in it. It's not that it's the top of the market or anything like that. So I think you should be proud and back yourself and be happy with what you've achieved. So, was there anything else that you wanted to share that I haven't asked you about your learnings, or just any advice to everyone on the call?
Yes. So one other thing, so I do have a few other friends who has not done the course, but still really want to buy properties. And they have gone through your public content, but they're still not convinced about the approach we're taking. So that's something I noticed, still people really want to do the course, but they have not taken the decision. That's something I want to share. And one other thing is, for me personally, what happens is, when I learn these concepts, I take it up to a certain level. So then when I go through the process, it's like doing a degree and then getting a job without an internship. So when we start working, we realize, okay, what are the actuals we have to face, how to tackle them, and so forth. So by going through the process, I learned quite a lot. So then I realized, okay, with experience, I should be able to do a better job in purchasing better properties. So I was ready to take a risk, and I was ready to even sell these properties if I find them are not good, and then reinvest on different properties. So I'm very dynamic in that sense. So I was ready to take a risk, and I was thinking, okay, it's better to go start today and then take these decisions with some level of risk, and then see how it goes, and then adapt accordingly.
Got it.
So yeah.
Got it. Well, no, thanks for sharing that, and I think everyone would really benefits from. I think this was really unique because you really did focus on the things you struggle with, and what you didn't do well. And I think if, we can all learn from those experiences. So thanks for having so much humility to take us through that on behalf of the community. Yeah, we're very, very grateful. Thank you so much. And guys, if you got value from that session with Imesh, please do give him a congratulations in the chat, or a pat on the back or something like that. It's really nice when members do come on and share, because yeah, like he himself said, he was listening to these weekly sessions and they really helped him, and especially in terms of selecting a trust, etc. So I'm really grateful for the whole community. And let's go through the questions directed at me now real quick. So Arjun, you're asking, hi PK, in additional to the recommended accountants provided in the course, could you please recommend financial planners? This would be very helpful in many scenarios: SMSF, trust, estate planning, and exit strategies. So Arjun, normally in terms of SMSF trusts, the accountants that I provide can actually do all of this. So that's been my experience. I myself haven't used a financial planner for all of these things either. So that's why I recommend those accountants. In terms of estate planning and wills and stuff like that, technically it's not really part of the course. This is a property course, not really about holistic retirement planning with pensions and all that kind of thing. But if you do want a good financial planner, there's actually an interview I did with a gentleman on YouTube, on my YouTube platform about 2 or 3 months ago. And I thought he was really down to earth and a good operator, and also understood the role of property in a retirement plan. So you can go check him out. I obviously don't have any relationship or anything like that with him, but he seems like a nice guy. Bail, you're asking about subdivision. Unfortunately, development subdivision is not part of the course. That's an entirely separate beast. You could create a 15, 20, 30-hour course just on development and subdivision. So apologies, that's not part of it. Mohammed, you're asking, you have shortlisted these Queensland suburbs. I don't know the flooding in those three off the top of my head, so probably the best is to put it in the community forum, put the links to the flood maps or whatever you've been able to find so far, and then I can sort of take it from there and help you, because I don't know off the top of my head, if those areas flood, etc. And guys, if you avoid direct messaging, then I'll definitely read it out so everyone can get benefit. Hello, PK. This might already been asked. When I see properties for investment, they seem to be negatively geared, if not neutral, for the next 1 or 2 years. So do we go with them or still aim for property which could be positively geared? Obviously, the bottom line is asset appreciation. My point of confusion is to wait for a good opportunity or break in market with a negative gearing, but save on opportunity lost kind. So my thesis or my understanding is this, and I've been saying this for actually since 2022 when interest rates started rising. Many of those clients that bought in 22 where the properties were negatively geared by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, something thousand. Fast forward to 2024, 25, those are all neutral, if not positive, because the rents have gone up so much. And so I think it's a similar story now. Interest rates are unlikely to go up further. Rents are very likely, if you're buying in the right areas, to continue rising. And so, you want to buy now, as long as your household budget can afford the kind of waiting period until it becomes positive, and then enjoy the capital growth in the interim. Otherwise, if you wait 2 years, then, at that time, there will be more capital growth since now. And so those same properties won't be positively geared, if you understand how the math works. So the best time is always now. And off the bat, I think it's very difficult to buy positive cash flow properties right now at a 80 or 88% lend. But there's plenty of different strategies. And just like last week or 2 weeks ago, we had our member share how he's bought that dual occupancy, and that, paid for itself. So, if you're willing to be a bit creative, there's still some opportunity. Last few questions. I'm not sure Geraldton versus Albany. I think Albany is more diversified, but I don't have the stats off the top of my head, Chris. Sorry. Ravi is asking about microburbs. He's asking if it still has the right information, etc. So yeah, I think someone asked this to me by email as well. It's still working. It still has things like the family score. It shows the score, but not necessarily the drop down and expand. And it would normally show like the locals and public schools in that area. If you're struggling to find it, put in the community forum, and I'll do a workaround for you for 100%. But so far, I haven't had anyone else mention it. But if this is an issue, then definitely pop it there, and then I'll do a workaround. Kieran, you're asking about, I can't pronounce that suburb. I haven't even heard of that suburb in my whole life. Sorry, Kieran. I'd have to go through and do the exact same week 2 analysis as that you would. Anuj, West Albury. So Albury, Wodonga, in 3 weeks ago when I did the quarterly update on the most interesting suburbs across Australia, we did mention some of these areas around Albury and Wodonga. So please go back and listen to that, or watch that session, because we did a bit of a deep dive, but I think you're on the right track. Just please go and watch that for more information. But yeah, I think you're getting to the right areas. How strict do we need to be on land to asset ratio? Yeah, so I mean, like I've always mentioned, and I think a really quick way, instead of getting caught up in, is it 55.5 or 65.5 or 58 or 62? Easiest way, if you're kind of in a conundrum, is it an established property? Is it at least 15 years old, i.e., therefore a lot of depreciation's already existed? And is it on at least 500 square meters of land? If those two things exist, then it's probably okay in terms of land to asset ratio. And yeah, sometimes we have to index up, but it is quite difficult to index up as well. Sometimes councils will undervalue land, overvalue land. So just use that rule of thumb that I just mentioned and you'll be okay. Richard, what are your thoughts on purchasing property at a low range versus medium range in regional areas? For example, in Cairns, it's hard to get something within 600K. I'd like to stretch up to 650, but wondering if we're going out of the affordability zone for tenants. So, I mean, the best way to assess that is really to take our emotion out of it and subjective bias and see what the vacancy rate says, see what the rental growth is, and then just ask, call a property manager. I've given you those property managers as part of the course. Just call them up and, one or two and ask that question. Different areas will be different in terms of this answer, but those are the steps that I would do. Vijay, you're asking about Condon in Townsville. And you're asking about a specific offer, whether 478 is reasonable. I don't know, like you'd have to actually do the CMA for that property. A CMA is specific to a property rather than a suburb. So provided Condon's a good suburb, I don't know the latest data off the top of my head, but provided it was a great suburb, if it hasn't gone up more than 50% in the last 36 months yet, then it's still a good suburb. Just you have to do the CMAs per your property. So if you're not sure about it, please do that CMA, send me the tool, and I can review it. All right. So you're asking about flood zones, AS. Yeah, I mean, if it's affected by a flood zone, I generally don't buy it. That's my risk appetite. I know that I always say to do three things: call the council, understand the flood overlay, look at the flood, map, and also call your insurance company, Terry Shear or EBM or Duo or whoever it may be, and understand in their risk premium whether they've got it in a flood zone or not. And based on the responses from these three triangulated sources, you can make a decision. But generally, if the actual dwelling, the build structure is in a flood area, like shaded, I personally don't buy it. So Rach, you're asking about, Melbourne and other factors you need to be wary of besides land tax and the tenancy laws. I mean, those are the main two. 2 weeks ago, I covered the top suburbs you could say to be buying in Melbourne if your risk appetite only allows you to buy in Melbourne. They're mostly townhouses from memory. The other thing you might want to be careful of is obviously the yield. The yield is very poor in Melbourne, even in those relatively good areas. It's not like 6% or even 5% a lot of the time. And so if you're buying for your SMSF, then you have to be cognizant that every single year, whatever balances in your SMSF will need to be tipped into supporting that property. Or of course, you could give a higher deposit and overcome that. Maybe you'd give a 40% deposit. In an SMSF, you typically have to give 20 to 30% deposit anyway. You might want to give a bit more. So it really comes down to your own kind of what you're comfortable with. But yeah, land tax is the biggest thing. Tenancy laws don't worry me too much. I think all of Australia is probably heading towards that way with the huge rental crisis, the social capital, the political capital, and its incentive structure kind of suggests that a lot of the political parties will be sort of distancing themselves from investors and for obvious reasons. So I don't think the tenancy laws are a big deal in my mind at least, but yeah, the land tax is something you need to be cognizant of. And perhaps in an SMSF, the land tax is even higher. So I'll take one or two last questions. I know I'm super over time. Anil, you're asking about Shepparton, Victoria. What do you think about it? I don't think I mentioned Shepparton at all in the quarterly update 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago on the most interesting suburbs in Victoria. I don't think I mentioned Shepparton. Yeah, I don't know so much about it. I know that members were buying in it in a big way in 2019, 20, 21 even. But I don't think right now it's fitting the grade. All right, guys. Well, I know that I probably didn't answer I think I did a good job. Maybe a few questions left. But if I didn't answer your question, please go ahead and copy paste it right now and put it into the community forum, because I do want to make sure that all of your questions are in fact answered. I see that everyone is congratulating Imesh on his terrific job. It's a really, really good feedback, actually. So once again, thank you, Imesh, and from the community as well. And guys, I just want to say as well, I want everyone to get these types of specific, fantastic deals, just like Imesh has. If you think about it, he only had to put in 4 offers and then he was successful. Like, that ratio is actually very, very good for that kind of heat in the Perth market. I know others that have put in 10 offers, then become successful. So I think we can learn a lot from Imesh. Please ask me lots of questions. I'm here to help you. Please ask on these sessions, the community forum, and by the personal email to me. Please email me if you secure a deal as well. I like to always hear about those. Please avoid messaging me on Facebook or the group or SMSF or WhatsApp, LinkedIn, X, phone calls, etc. Keep it to the 3 recommended methods. If you weren't here from the very start, nothing I or Imesh said was, of course, financial, professional, or personal advice. Please go back and watch the disclaimer. And lastly, good luck, happy hunting, good morning, and have a great day ahead. Thank you again, Imesh. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, PK.